I honestly don't see the point in keeping Ten Hag much longer because after just 6 games into the season, we are already 8 points off the top and 6 points off top 4. And with our fixtures in the next 6 to 8 weeks, if we keep Ten Hag, we could end up in the bottom half of the table going into December. Ruud van Nistelrooy is a likely interim, but I don't see how he's a better option as an interim than Ollie. Whoever comes in for the rest of the season, they aren't going to be the manager going into next season because we have to get an elite level tactician, one of De Zerbi, Nagelsmann, Sebastian Hoeneß or Inzaghi for me. And so given that Ollie has already proved that he can come in mid-season and provide an instant impact, taking a season which under Mourinho in 18-19 was going to end up with us being mid-table by the end of the season, to a season where we almost got top 4, but at least looked like a Champions League level side for most of the second half of the season, I think Ollie is a much safer bet than Van Nistelrooy in terms of who could turn the season around and get top 4 and Champions League, because that has to be the aim. Financially we are falling behind, as last season's financial reports show, and it's only going to get worse if we leave it too long before sacking Ten Hag and end up not getting Champions League next season. And it's not just financially where United are in danger of falling further behind. Last season I was saying that we couldn't afford to be patient and watch another season fall away. We should have sacked Ten Hag midway through last season, brought in someone like Conte on an interim basis for the rest of the season as he was available at the time. That would have given us the best opportunity of rescuing the season and potentially getting top 4. And even if we did keep Ten Hag as we did, De Zerbi was available. Nagelsmann probably would have been more attainable straight after the Euros than he will be next summer. Inzaghi we could have also got, as he had 1 year left on his contract approaching the summer before he extended it by a year. People were saying that there weren't any good managers available, which you could only believe if you didn't watch football outside of the Premier League. Chelsea appointed Mariska from the Championship and Liverpool got Slot from the Eredivisie, and now just 6 games in both sides look levels above us. If we had De Zerbi for this season, we would have had a realistic chance of getting Champions League football, which would have aided us financially and also would have allowed us to pursue world-class talents who come the summer will have just 1 year left on their contracts, such as Theo Hernandez and Jamal Musiala. But if we don't get Champions League, why would Musiala join Manchester United over say Chelsea or Arsenal? And that's not even factoring in Liverpool, City or Barcelona. Now don't get me wrong, Ollie was never the manager to win us the league, but when appointing an interim manager, that isn't really what we're looking for because that manager isn't available mid-season. But why exactly do I think that Ollie would improve this Manchester United side from a tactical point of view? Well, before I come on to that, let me tell you about the jersey of the day, which is this Manchester United 2012-2013 jersey from the last time we won the Premier League, with Robin van Persie on the back. You can find that shirt on Jersey FIFA along with the new season and other club and international retro jerseys as well. Use code Atlantis at checkout for a discount, and a link will be in my Instagram bio, which I will leave linked in the description. So I think Ollie would be an improvement, not because he's going to come in like a De Zerbi, Inzaghi or a Nagelsmann and bring in a much more coordinated and effective system both in and out of possession, but because his coaching style is much closer to a relationist approach than Ten Hag's structured positional approach. I think that given that Ollie will likely give Rashford and Ahmad a lot more positional freedom, alongside the combination of Xerxes' deeper movement to link play, as well as Mazraoui, Bruno, Dalot and Mount providing movements ahead of play from deeper positions, I think this will work to give United a lot more balance in possession, in particular more runners in behind the opposition's backline, stretching their system and creating more space between the lines for the front three to drop into when they feel it's appropriate to do so. By giving the attacking players more positional freedom, this should make United's attack less predictable, making it hard for opposition sides to set up their side and in particular to man-to-man press us in the defensive and middle third. More rotations from United in possession is going to lead to the opposition getting dragged out of position more often, creating space for United to take advantage. Now this won't win us the league, but I think it will definitely improve us, mostly because I think it will improve individual players like Rashford, Bruno and Ahmad, who all seem stifled under Ten Hag's rigid possession approach, which was exactly the issue under Louis van Gaal. From a statistical point of view, I also think Ollie makes his team better, and we can see that if we compare Ten Hag's best season with Ollie's. Ollie finished 4th for his XG, XG against, XG difference and his X points in his last full season in 2021, and that was with Fred and McTominay starting most games in central midfield. In 22-23, in Ten Hag's best season, we finished 6th for X points, behind De Zerbi's Brighton in 4th, and we also finished 6th for XG, with De Zerbi's Brighton in 2nd behind only Manchester City. And that same season we also finished in 8th for XG against, also behind De Zerbi's Brighton in 7th. So whatever way you want to look at it from a statistical point of view, even in Ten Hag's best season, the underlying stats show that we were never a Champions League level side. It's just that Chelsea, Tottenham and Liverpool all underperformed that season, whilst Ten Hag had Rashford in a purple patch, and De Zerbi had Alexis Mac Allister, who was Brighton's top goal scorer that season with just 10 goals, alongside a whole squad of unproven young players such as Enciso, Undav and Ferguson, alongside what you describe as a journeyman striker in Danny Welbeck. That was Ten Hag's best season, by the way. In the 2019-2020 season with McFred in midfield, Ollie finished 4th in the league, 2nd for XG against, 4th for XG and 4th for X points. Even last season when people said that De Zerbi underperformed at Brighton, the stats show that this just isn't true. And in fact the underlying stats show that it was Ten Hag who underperformed and was bailed out by individual talents like Mainu and Bruno Fernandes, as we finished 10th for XG, behind Brighton in 9th, 16th for XG against, yes 16th, we also finished with negative XG difference. That's embarrassing, sitting in 15th place with De Zerbi's Brighton finishing in 9th. De Zerbi's Brighton with a mid-table squad in both of De Zerbi's seasons, one of which he came in midway through the season, he finished above Ten Hag's Manchester United for pretty much every underlying XG metric, finishing in 2nd in 22-23 for XG, behind only Manchester City, proving my point that De Zerbi is an elite level manager. He just didn't have elite level players. Even Ollie, with a worse squad than Ten Hag has in this current season, was at the very least keeping United comfortably in the top 4, and whilst Ten Hag has been allowed to underperform for a whole season now, going into a second, Ollie was only afforded half a season. We was right to sack Ollie, and we should have probably done it earlier, but also we should have sacked Ten Hag midway through last season. The reason I'm leaning towards Ollie to become the interim is that he's already proven in 2018-2019 that he can come in mid-season and make an impact, and given that his numbers in his first 2 full seasons show that United were fairly comfortably a top 4 side, I think it's a no-brainer to go with Solskjaer as an interim rather than Van Nistelrooy, because we just don't know fully what we're going to get with Van Nistelrooy and whether it would even be an improvement. If we are going to be sacking Ten Hag, we have to be doing so with the aim of rescuing the season, not just to waste another season after we wasted last season, and I think we've got a better chance of getting top 4 or 5, or even winning the Europa League with Ollie, than we do with Van Nistelrooy or Ten Hag. But quickly, before I go any further, if you want to get access to a Telegram group chat, some of my articles and unreleased videos as well, go to my Patreon. I'll leave it linked in the description and comment section below. People say that Ten Hag is a better cup manager than Ollie, but I just don't think he is. We only got to the last 2 FA Cup finals by winning on penalties in the semi-finals, the first against De Zerbi's Brighton, and then against Coventry after we nearly lost the game 4-3 in extra time. Even in the League Cup of 22-23, yes, we did beat Newcastle in the final, but we didn't exactly have a hard route to the final at all, playing Forest in the semis and Charlton in the quarter-finals. And if you look at Ten Hag's record in Europe over the last season or so, you can't say it's impressive at all, as the only game we won in the Champions League last season was against Copenhagen at home, and even Onana had to save a penalty at the end in that game as well. We aren't convincing even in cup competitions at all. We've just been fortunate with penalty shootouts and who we've played. Ollie got us to a Europa League final in 2020-2021, and we only lost that on penalties. And so by the logic of some of the Ten Hag cult members, if Ollie had won that penalty shootout against Villarreal, and Ten Hag had lost the penalty shootout against Coventry, they would consider Ollie the better manager. So they're not even judging managers over the course of a whole season, or their tactical setup, or looking at how they use individual players, just literally going off trophies that the managers won. And also, going by that logic, if Gareth Southgate had won the penalty shootout against Italy in the final in Euro 2020, he would be considered a top level manager, because that's how we're judging Ten Hag, by trophies. So you're literally just judging managers on penalty shootouts at this point. And so overall, I wouldn't mind Ruud van Nistelrooy as the interim, but surely Ollie has to be the #1 target. People are lying if they can say with any sort of certainty at all that Van Nistelrooy comes in and improves this Manchester United side, because despite managing well at PSV, compared with Ollie, who has worked with some of these players, he's too much of an unknown quantity. What happens if Van Nistelrooy comes in and isn't able to make the tactical adaptations needed, and we end up still as bad as we are now approaching December? Do we just concede the season and do the same thing as we did last season? Also, I think Ollie's Manchester United would probably be more entertaining than Van Nistelrooy's if his style is anything similar to Ten Hag's, and I think Ollie could also get the best out of players like Rashford, Ahmad Garnacho and Xerxes, which could be crucial if we are looking to sell Rashford this summer. So let me know who you prefer as the interim manager, Ruud van Nistelrooy or Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and check out my Patreon as well for my articles, unreleased videos and the Telegram chat as well.